next thing you want to look for in your pre-purchase evaluation of your horse is just his basic health and soundness. Now, there's a lot of ways to approach this, and here at Windy Hill Farm, what we do is what we call a wellness exam, where the vet comes out and he checks the horse's vital signs, his eyes and his ears, and checks his teeth and his feet and his vital signs, his pulse, his heart rate, his abdominal sounds and so on. And they'll do they'll lunge the horse in a circle and so on. And then they'll do sometimes what they call a flexion test, which I don't like because I think that it's not an accurate test, and I don't really see it a test of value. What I would rather see is a horse lunged and evaluating his gaits in both directions, where in his movement. So I'm going to show you some things here you can do that aside from your vet exam, that if you're off somewhere and you don't have the luxury of a vet to check your horse, you know, I never do a vet check because I just got things I know to look for, and so I can share those with you. And by no means am I trying to substitute what the vet does, but you know, you don't always have the luxury of having a vet standing there to advise you. And if you're like me, I mean, I buy a lot of horses, and if I did that every time, I would get nothing else done but vet checks. And so I like to refer to it as a wellness check, because if a horse has been through my program, he's been evaluated and he is sound and he is good, and we are here just to confirm his wellness. So that's how I like to approach it, because if we look at this in a way where the vet comes out and is like, well, my job is to find out what is wrong with this horse, I just don't have time for that. What I want to do is I want to come out and let's find out what's right about this horse. He's had a lot of work put into him. He's a nice horse. And if your job is just to find fault, well, I'm not really a person that likes to think that way. So the first thing you want to look at his eyes. And I want to make sure his eyes are the same. A lot of horses, you got one eye larger than the other. You got one eye that's got a lot of white around it, and the pupils are smaller on this side as that side. And very important. I believe that if a horse, if you look at his eyes and they're different, I think he sees differently out of them. I mean, I've proven many times that a horse, if he's got a smaller eye on one side than the other, his vision is impaired on that side, and that's why sometimes he'll spook at things from that direction. So I look at that, and then I want to see his eye brown and sticking out from his head. I don't want it flat, okay? Where some horses have a real bright, big eye. And this horse's eyes is nice and medium, very nice, ideal. And then what you want to be able to do is walk behind that horse and stand behind him, and he can be looking at you standing behind him peripherally out the corner of his eye. And that's a real important thing, where what you don't want to do is, if that horse is what I call pig-eyed or flat-eyed, his eyes are flat, so he can't see anything behind him. And that's why horses, they spook when people, you know, things come around beside them or whatever, is because they actually can't see, and they're surprised. So we look at his teeth. I showed you that earlier, where we feel down his jaw to make sure he doesn't have soft teeth. You know, we want his nostrils to be nice and where he can breathe nice and freely. I don't want him to be ear shy. I want to look at his feet. So if you look at his feet, that's like the rings on a tree. And if you see smoothness, that tells you he's had a good life. A hoof is 1 year of growth normally. So if I look halfway down and I see a real rough section, well, he's had a tough time somewhere a year ago or 6 months ago or whatever. And if they're real dry and cracked, that's, you know, he's had a tough time somewhere. But if you look at this horse's hoofs, he's had a consistent life. There's been no problems, okay? So I look at his hooves, and I look at his feet. I look for bumps, splint bumps. If a bump is hard, that means it's calcium, it's hard. But if a bump is soft, that's muscle, like a bruise or something. So you got to watch for things like that. You want things to be smooth. If there are bumps, horses have bumps. I mean, it's going to happen. You want to make sure he's not sore. If I touch it and if he flinches, then he's sore at that bump. But if he doesn't flinch, most of the time you'll be okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk this horse. I'm going to walk him, and I'm going to listen to his feet hit the ground. And I want his feet to hit the ground at the same tone. So if he hits the ground, clip, clop, clop, clip, clop, at different tones tells me he's compensating for pain. But when I walk him, he walks smoothly. He's not dragging his feet. He's not unrhythmic in his tone of his walk. And he's got a nice hollow tone to his hoof. If you ever lead a horse down the concrete that's lame, you can hear it. One foot will hit the ground harder than the other one. And you got to watch for that, okay? Another thing you want to do is when I walk him down through here, I'll turn him and walk him. Watch his tail. If his tail cocks to one side, tells you he's got a sore back, okay? But notice how he walks straight beside me, and his head is beside me, and his neck just kind of noodles along. So this horse isn't stiff and hard and compensating for pain anywhere. He's a nice, relaxed, peaceable horse, okay? If I were to lead him and he's pushing me around and stepping on my feet and spinning in a circle and looking around and tending everybody else's business, well, when I get on his back, it's going to do the same thing. But as you can tell, this horse has been handled properly. So if you walk up to him like this, you grab his tail and you pull it towards you. Okay, see how he pulled away? That's good. If he just fell over toward me and was weak in his back end, then we know we got a problem somewhere. You know, he should be substantial. He should be standing. He should stand firmly in his back end. So, you know, a lot of times you don't have a lot of time to make your mind up. If you're in an auction or something and you got about 5 minutes to make up your mind, these are little things you look at, you know. And another thing you can do is take him and turn him. Turn him in a circle like this. And if he limps when you turn that circle, like he comes in the sail ring and goes to the other end, he turns around and comes back. When he turns around, if he goes like this, he's sore somewhere. That's not the end of the world. I mean, horses get sore, but you got to figure out why he's sore. You know, we get a chiropractor comes here about once a week, and we very seldom do we ever get a horse to come in here that doesn't have something out of place. And so don't confuse soundness with perfection. It's not going to happen. So if he does have a problem, you just got to know how to deal with it and know what to do about it. Because you're not going to find one that's perfect. So you got to work with your dentist, you got to work with your chiropractor, you got to work with your farrier, and you got to get some of these pieces of the puzzle put together. Because if you expect one to go through a vet check perfectly and everything work out perfect and only spend what you're going to want to spend, no, you're wasting everybody's time. That's not going to work out. So just take in mind those things I've just told you. It's a very simple way to look at it. It's a good way to look at it. It doesn't fail me much. Sometimes somebody will throw me a curveball, but usually it's because they hadn't told the truth. You know, and that's the main thing. You got to just listen to the people and realize there's never been more stories told about untruthful things as there is about selling a horse. I've had librarians and Sunday school teachers lie to me about a horse out here for some reason. They feel they need to sell him. It's not necessary. Be honorable, tell the truth, and tell them what you know about your horse, good and bad. And the people will respect you for that and honor that. There's just a lot of shenanigans get pulled in selling a horse that are inappropriate. And just listen, you know, and just evaluate what the folks are telling you, because Most of the time when I get in trouble, it's when somebody's not been honorable. So as you buy horses and as you're looking at horses, there's lots of things you've got to take into consideration. But the things I've just gone over with you in these last couple of videos are what I do, and it works well for me, and I've done it a lot, and I've kind of figured out what works and what doesn't. So with that, we'll go on and we'll start talking about some mounted work here, and we'll do some other videos on mounted work probably over the next week or so here. So, but that's how we look at a horse before we buy him. Thank you.